since you probably are very easily in a super high frequency, why don't you manifest some money playing the casino that is very easy to play the roulette, you say in English, I think also. And you manifest immediately some money, and then you could maybe make some discount for the people who cannot afford your your superb Zenith proposal. I can afford it. It's a miracle. So it's not for me, but I think no, it's a way of saying, why don't you manifest easily money?
So I have
And
done
so
that.
I just wanted to say that I so appreciate that there will be some free tour events for anybody in Europe. I just find that just beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, well, look, if it ever feels relevant or guided for me to go to a casino and do that, then I would follow those steps. Um, I have I have done this in the past, um, once or twice, but I was younger and less wise, I suppose. Um, but it has lost its appeal, the idea of that, and even at the time, it felt like a fun little test, but it didn't have any significance or meaning. And whenever I've had the thought of, okay, let's fund the mission using things like that, it has always either not felt good or it has quickly sort of backfired. I would receive a lot of signals that that's just not the way to go about it. So that's basically my answer is that, okay, if it's aligned, then I would do that or I would take the steps to where that would happen, so to speak. But yeah, I don't feel aligned about that, at least in this moment. Who knows, maybe tomorrow that suddenly resonates. If I pass by a casino and I get the guidance, hey, go here and make a bunch of money, then I would follow those steps. But uh, in the past, that approach of trying to make money for the mission has always backfired, no matter what way I've tried or considered, whether it's been um, trading or crypto trading or investments like that. It never flows. And so I quickly get the signal, this is just a fanciful idea. This is just an experiment. It doesn't actually it doesn't actually benefit, at least at this point. Again, maybe at some point that's the way to do it. But at this point it doesn't serve the mission. That's the overwhelming sense. And I can try to explain why. Right now I'll do this briefly just to give you a sense of, okay, why would it not serve the mission to make a bunch of money at the casino or just to materialize it in my hand and do that, is think about all the things that this would take away from people. Think about all the opportunities, all the learning, all the reflection, all the insight, all the evolution that this would steal away from the people who need to realize that this is not my mission, this is their mission. This is not, they're not working for me. I am working for the mission as much as anybody else is working for the mission. And that this is by the people, for the people, and this is their own creation, and this is due to their own power to answer the most important calling of life and humanity right now. So all these things need certain resistances to be learned. They need certain reflections, processes, and processes need limitations. So if I were to manifest all the money effortlessly that would support this whole thing, and I've been tempted in that idea, like it seems like a tempting idea. It seems like a generous thing. But is it? Because from that sort of younger part of my heart, I could say, okay, I would love to make just billions of dollars just out of thin air, and then fund all this stuff myself and like make everything free. And but the repercussions of that are plentiful and not necessarily positive or constructive. They don't necessarily honor what's most important in this journey. It would take away the privilege for people to become more generous. People that do have the money, that have an opportunity to become sponsors, for instance. In this upcoming retreat, we have a sponsorship-based model. So that's an invitation. If I were to fund all that, and they have, this is just one example, but they have some kind of a blockage or lack of generosity out of a fear belief, then they would not need to transcend that. They would not need to create that transformation. And then they wouldn't be able to enter into this more tight-knit exchange due to their sponsorship with that type of consciousness that can further co-create and that would develop them, that would further crystallize them and put them on their path and amplify the mission. It would not offer the opportunity for everyone to consider their own beliefs and limitations and to transform their own lives and to manifest their own abundance. Whenever I've needed or wanted something that was just in flow of supporting myself as part of my mission, it's always come effortlessly. But when I considered making money, quote unquote, or manifesting money for the mission or on behalf of the mission to take away the, are we back? Little frozen moment. Okay, are we back? So whenever I've considered that beyond what I need to flourish and do my job, so to speak, then there's this, again, similar, there's a veil. Like you cannot overreach, you cannot overextend because you're taking away people's real journey, what's really important. And it is important that people understand that this is by the people, for the people, that this is not the Bentinho Massaro show. I might be one of the instigators, but this is me reading the collective as well as anyone can read the collective and devote their lives to that. So it's much more powerful energetically from a true abundance point of view for people to become radiators of the mission, to become self-transformed radiators of the mission, than for them to be able to come to all these events for free and not have to think about their bank account and their self-concepts and their ideas and just sort of consume the content. So that's one aspect of why I seem to produce limitation around some of my work. If that makes sense. Because there's reasons for it. There's safety mechanisms in play that serve the greater, the more important realms of all this. And when the time is right, when the time is there, there will be a big explosion of abundance for and within and by this community through their devotion to God. I have no doubts about that. And it could be an overnight thing when it's relevant, or it could be a gradual thing. It doesn't matter. But it's important to always prioritize what's actually the true lesson, what's the true learning, what's the true expansion. And it's rarely being manifested for by someone else. But if that's done in a community setting of true support, family vibes, and everyone's uplifting each other, and one person donates to this person, and there's sponsors that are able to do this, and they step into generosity, and they co-create with a bunch of other sponsors, and they invest in things that really benefit the mission and more people and so on, then it can be an aligned endeavor. As long as the endeavor is aligned, it's going to be abundant. There's no doubt about that. We wish to make true spirituality, the true direct knowledge of God, commonplace knowledge. Because this is about accessing the real self, the freedom, the potential, the possibility, our understanding of God. That's what this tour is all about. It is about returning God to the people, which is already in the making in collective consciousness anyway. We're just supporting its further ignition, its acceleration. And so can you, if you wish to participate.